Hey guys, I got another Ask Adam for you today, and today we're going into a cardio question. And this question comes in from Lost Pizza. It wasn't a direct question to me. This one is on one of those fitness channels where a lot of discussion happens internally, and I thought it was a great question. So I'm going to be jumping in and answering some of these questions that are on there from here and there, because some good discussion happens there. Now, this question comes from Lost Pizza, which is an awesome name, by the way, because if it's literal, that makes a lot of sense. Lost Pizza. I lost my pizza a long time ago too. So curious to hear what you guys try to reach during cardio that isn't HIIT. Right now I reach around 145 to 155 beats per minute on the stairs. What's considered high enough to be effective, which is a really common question that we get in our realm of fitness. Okay, so there's a lot of discussion to be had on target heart rates for cardio. Now when we look at target heart rates for cardio, we have to look at the opposite ends of the extremes and see what we're trying to actually accomplish with the cardio. So if you look at some studies, they'll say, oh, well, if you're barely walking, you're going to burn the most amount of fat. And they're right. You're going to burn the highest amount of fat with the lower intensity cardio. And what's the reasoning for that? Well, it's easier for your body to use fat as a source of energy at a lower rate than if you're exploding really fast. The body's going to have a really hard time when you're running really fast to convert fat as energy and use that, where you're going to use more glycogen. So percentage-wise, yes, you're going to burn more fat at lower cardio heart rates. But in terms of energy expenditure, at the higher cardio heart rates, you're going to be burning more calories, right? So more total calories. Though the percentage may be lower from fat, you might be burning more total fat because you're burning more total calories in the long run, right? So that would be if you're looking at just those two things, that one's really confusing because people are like, well, this is my target heart rate. Well, actually, when we talk about the fat burning zone, which is what a lot of people go into, the fat burning zone is actually best when you're at sleep. You burn the most amount of your calories from fat when you're sleeping, actually more than any other time, even when you're doing cardio, in terms of percentage, right? But it's still the lowest amount of calories. So if that's the case, and we say, oh, just sleep all day, you'll burn the most fat, right? Percentage-wise, yes, that would be the argument, but calorie burning-wise, it's the opposite. So it's a hard thing to manage, and this is why with fitness people in our sport specific to bodybuilding, bikini competition, men's physique, I'll say, you know what, don't really worry about the heart rate. It's something that, obviously you want to be cautious of. You don't want to be getting too high. I mean, if you're just walking and you're at, 200 beats per minute, that's a problem. So nothing like that. But when it comes to the actual cardio, I go off of rate of perceived exertion. Okay, so rate of perceived exertion is basically the intensity level you're kind of feeling yourself at, right? The best way of judging rate of perceived exertion is going to be if you can carry a conversation or not. If you can carry a full conversation when you're doing your cardio, you're probably not working hard enough. If you can't talk at all to your friends and you can't even say any words at all, you're probably working too hard to sustain that for a good amount of time in terms of steady state cardio. But if you can have a conversation where you're breathing a little bit heavy and you're like, hey, this video is pretty hard to record, that would be about right where you want to be. But you don't want to be able to not talk. You don't want to be able to hey, that video is pretty hard to record. You're not working that hard, right? So, and the reason is this. If you look at Olympic level athletes, like Olympic level, let's say Olympic level marathon runners, if I told them, hey, I want you to get to 85% of your Carvonin heart rate, right? So 220 minus your age times the heart rate. So let's just say, I was 50 years old, 220 minus 50, that would put me at 170 as 220 minus my age, so 170, and then 85% of that is kind of like where people say, hey, that's where you should be as a Carvonin, right? In that scenario, you're about 145 beats per minute to be at 85% of your Carvonin, which is kind of generally like the recommended amount, right? How is that? Is that accurate though, right? So for the marathon runner to get to 145 beats per minute, they're going to have to work significantly harder than someone who just started doing cardio last week. If you just started doing cardio last week and you've been sitting on a couch for 10 years, you're going to be at 145 just walking on the treadmill, versus the marathon runner, to get to 145 doesn't have to be full on sprinting to get there, right? So you see how it's not an accurate way of doing heart rate. So the thing is with cardio, and especially when the HIIT is referenced here too, with cardio, you kind of self-increase. You kind of self-increase because if you are sticking to, let's say a HIIT cardio would be a good example of this. If you're doing 10 minutes of HIIT cardio, let's say it's just 10 minutes of HIIT. You're gonna start off that first HIIT session, you're gonna do 30 seconds all-out burst, and for you to be able to do an all-out burst again, it's gonna take you probably 90 seconds of recovery to get into that next all-out burst. So that was a 2-minute spurt where you only got 30 seconds of hitting in, right? But let's say you do that for 8 weeks. Well, on week number 8, you're gonna now be able to do that burst for 45 seconds, maybe a minute. So you're increasing your energy expenditure, you're increasing your intensity because you're getting better at the cardio. Now, instead of taking 90 seconds to recover from now that 1-minute burst, now you're only taking 60 seconds, right? So now, instead of taking 2 minutes to get a full 30 seconds in again, you're taking 2 minutes to get a full minute in again, right? So you're increasing the frequency of the burst, you're increasing the volume of the burst, even though your duration stayed only at 10 minutes. So it's you're kind of self-improving and self-increasing intensity when you're doing HIIT cardio, which is why I do like HIIT cardio for a lot of people. When I'm training people at really high volume of legs, I do a little bit less HIIT cardio. And the way that bikini has gone lately, where there's more volume, more density to the muscle, I'm doing a little bit less HIIT cardio than I was before. But you might be the person who's doing HIIT cardio. So don't look at heart rates for that. As far as the cardio and doing a steady state cardio, I wouldn't look at heart rates for that either, because again, the same rules are going to apply. At week 1 of cardio, you're going to be, if you're at 145, let's say 145 beats per minute, you're going to be able to just casually get there, which probably isn't intense enough for someone who's doing a competition in that first week. And then at week 16, when you're 16 weeks in prep, for you to get to 145 is going to be really, really hard for you. And arguably that might be too hard for you at that point of prep to get to that same 145. You're going to be a little bit more tired, less calories, more beat up. So go off of rate of perceived exertion. I would not go off of anything cardio. I would not go off of any heart rates for those reasons, because the better you get at cardio, the harder it's going to be to reach a certain cardio heart rate, because your body's going to be more efficient with it, right? Think about it, 16 weeks in, you're super cardio conditioned, and not just that, you weigh less than when you were when you started week 1. So it's going to be easier for your heart to pump blood to all that volume of tissue, because there's less volume of tissue than there was before, and you're better at doing it. So this is not the right topic for bodybuilding specific. It makes a lot of sense when you're getting someone off the couch, if you're doing health and fitness stuff, if you're just trying to prolong someone's health and longevity of their life by going into a regular health and fitness routine, and you're like, okay, every day I want you doing 30 minutes of active walking at 70 or 80%, like to get someone healthy. But we're not talking about getting healthy in bodybuilding. We're talking about getting extremely lean. We're being extremely conditioned. Bodybuilders are some of the best conditioned athletes in the world. Bikini competitors are some of the best conditioned athletes in the world when they reach that week 16. So it just doesn't apply so much. So I would get out of that frame of thought, go into rate of perceived exertion, make sure you're working hard and always pushing yourself. Cardio should be just as hard as when you're doing sets in the gym. You should always be focusing on that. And I think that that's where a lot of people drop off, is they're not giving the right intensity in their cardio. Though they're killing it in the gym with the weights, they'll never kill it in the gym with their cardio. That's when they're, talking to their friends and texting people back and forth. And I'm like, you're not doing cardio hard enough. And that's why you're ending up doing 90 minutes, 2 hours of cardio. Try doing 30 minutes of full intensity cardio, and that'll make up for your whole 2 hours. So that's a big miss for a lot of people. So check yourself on that. If that's you, like take a step back, say, okay, I'm going to go off of rate of perceived exertion today. I'm going to work hard enough, like Adam said, where I can kind of barely have a conversation. Let's see if I'm already doing that. And if I'm not, let's step it up a little bit and then not worry so much about the heart rate. So hopefully that's a helpful tool for you, and you guys can use this for the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. TeamElitePhysique.com for worldwide online contest prep with methods like this that work. Talk to you guys later.